As the 2019 elections draw closer, the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center put together a conversational seminar on the culture of transactional politics and its impact on participatory democracy and accountability of governance in Nigeria, with a view to shedding light and preferring solutions towards moving Nigerian democracy to the promised land.
Many different kinds of things need to be done. Legal things, practice, institutions, and so forth, making it easier for candidates to run without large amounts of money, making sure that INEC does a really good job of having only voters vote and counting the votes. Vote buying is a very difficult problem. I have no magic solution to that. It's especially hard when some people are feeling cynical. They don't think a vote matters, so why not take 5,000 naira? That seems like a good deal. It's going to take work to get rid of that kind of transactional politics.
It might sound like it's an utopia, that we might never realize it, but that's not what the evidence is showing. The evidence is showing that there are reforms that are going on. If you look at INEC, today's INEC of 2018, it's not the INEC of 2007, it's not the INEC of 2011. So what that tells you is that as civil society and policy people begin to push ideas, that somebody is listening. So the role for us is to keep highlighting these issues, keep pointing in the right direction, keep laying out pragmatic solutions, and keep holding government to account.
Nigeria is bigger than they have experienced. Nigeria is better than they have experienced. And even though they have been disengaged and disenfranchised and not been brought into the center of the largesse that is called Nigeria, that there is a better way, and taking the stipends that are given to them on election day to buy their vote is not the best means.
The transactional nature of Nigerian politics is a major driver of corruption and ethno-religious tension. The absence of institutional mechanisms to legitimately finance political parties and their candidates' campaigns means politicians must rely on illicit and opaque funding to acquire and retain power.
We have a system whereby people who are elected do not really feel accountable and responsive to the electorate. I think they are beholden more to other interests, and among those interests are the big money that influence our politics. So I think that role of the godfathers and big monies in the politics is truncating the democratic ideals itself. A democracy which is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, then it essentially turns to be a government that is really run and controlled by the few rich people in our society. And I think that is very dangerous for the society itself.
So they are trying to directly bribe citizens. And we believe that is extremely dangerous because they are depriving the citizen of their most important power, which is that of choice. If people vote because they are given money, the implication of that is that once they get into power, they don't have to do the work citizens expect them to do.
If there's any serious desire to change the political process, to restructure the country so that it's more efficient, more equitable in terms of the division of labor and resources, the middle class is the target. Do history. The French Revolution did not start with the bottom. The American Revolution did not start with the bottom. It starts with the enlightened class. Why are we always focused on the rural areas?
For any successful attempt to curb corruption in Nigeria, we must effectively reform the country's culture of patronage and the mechanisms for funding its political parties in order for the electorate to have a voice and rest assured that their votes actually count in an election.
Refresh the training that we gave our staff, particularly prior to the 2015 general elections. We have given them refresher training, but also we had issues with the forms that we use for monitoring. It was just one form for the parties and the candidates and also for our own observations. But now we have broken those forms into 3 for ease of monitoring. So we are going to have different staff covering candidates, covering the parties, and some of these forms we issue to them, to the candidates, to the parties. Then we have our own form that we are going to complete to see what we have observed, the trends. We're also going to work with collaborating stakeholder agencies, such as the National Broadcasting Corporation, EFCC, the FIRS in particular, the ICPC, and so on, so that we see how people's expenditure relates to either their taxes. We hope that the FIRS can follow up on that. When people declare inadequately, we can see from the expenditures that they, for instance, make on adverts, we can immediately see whether there is a correspondence between what is declared and what is actually expended.
The 2019 general elections represent a potential flashpoint, fueled by illicit cash and rampant divisive behaviors. Which interventions to address these challenges must be broken through institutions and influences that have leverage with communities. And we as citizens also have a pivotal role to play if this must happen in Nigeria.
If you are loyal and you vote according to your conscience, and you do away with vote buying, and you also educate those close to you, I will educate those close to me against the negative effects of vote buying. And we should just examine our conscience as we vote. We shouldn't just depend on the peanuts that we are given that will not take us anywhere, and we, sacrifice our future.
I guess my role is essentially to remain engaged with the process, to remain optimistic, and continue to make positive contribution, believing that if we continue and persevere and insist on playing by the rules, ultimately things will work out right.
I don't need to buy my vote. I don't need to give them money for them to vote for me. So it's something I'm going to take back. So maybe come after 2019, 2023 for the next election, this is what we should hold. I feel this is what we should pass to my generation, telling them that this is not the norm. It's not the normal thing. It's not the right thing to do, to buy your vote. If you are qualified, people should vote for you because they feel you can serve them better.
Thank you. I actually thought you have cancelled my candidature. I wasn't invited, so I decided to come and defend myself.
I plan to perspire, to inspire the desires of Nigerians to acquire a better Nigeria. Thank you.
To survive as a nation, we must protect our people from both internal and external threats. Now, to achieve this, we will prioritize information gathering and sharing. We will also introduce community policing and ensure that we place competent people in positions of leadership while demanding measurable performance from them. Finally, we will ensure that our security personnel have everything they need to work effectively and that they are adequately remunerated in order to eliminate corruption.
On the issue of corruption, let me categorically corruption. Corruption is going to kill us. Yes. Look, we have been using Western technology to fight corruption for over 58 years now, since our independence, and there is nothing to show for it. No single success. Why can't we just revert to the days of our forefathers? All public office holders must swear by Ifa that if they embezzle public funds, Ifa will strike them dead. Oh yes.
I doubt if you have a better place. Is it?
The timekeeper says you are running out of time. Sorry, sir.
You don't time the president.
The role of money in politics can't be underrated. But do debates of this nature add value to how elections play out in Nigeria?
No, they don't. And if they did, then they would have been compulsory. Nonetheless, I actually think that these are things we should encourage. The simple reason is if you're looking to lead people, the least you can do for them is share with them your ideas about the things that you're going to do if you're elected into office. They should be able to ask you questions about your manifesto. The thing with democracy is that it's a process. You don't wake up one day and you're an advanced democracy. And so this might seem like little things, but they're baby steps, and they're important steps towards establishing things properly. And so I encourage debates. I think the debates are important developments in a democracy, and they can become a way of consolidating expectations around what candidates should and shouldn't do during elections.
The Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Foundation and her partners are hopeful that audience interactions will establish conversations and activities that will break the link between corruption and divisive conduct in Nigeria, whilst bringing stakeholders to develop strategies to encourage positive participation in the 2019 elections.